My selfish brother decided to take my truck on Christmas Day, destroyed it while drunk driving, and, to top it all off, my parents backed him up, so I did something they'll never recover from. Growing up in my household, it was like my brother Mike, 22M, had a glowing sign above his head that read, "Untouchable." No matter what rules he broke or chaos he caused, our parents, Sharon and Doug, always found a way to make excuses for him. Meanwhile, I, Eli, 21 million, was constantly blamed for anything that went wrong. If Mike messed something up, I was accused of not looking out for him. If he failed a test, somehow it was my responsibility for not helping him prepare. You get the idea. Mike had this insane belief that anything I owned was automatically his. As kids, he'd snatch my toys and ruin them without a second thought. I remember one time I spent months saving up to buy a high-end remote control car I'd been dreaming about. It was sleek, fast, and had functioning headlights. Mike begged to try it, and stupidly, I said yes. Within 5 minutes, he crashed it into the curb and laughed like it was nothing. When I ran to our mom in tears, she just brushed it off. "Boys will be boys," she said. "You can't expect him to be careful at that age." He was 12, old enough to understand what he was doing. As we got older, the stealing escalated. Mike would swipe my clothes, my money, even my bike. Once, he rode my bike to school and left it out in the rain for 3 days because he forgot where he parked it. I eventually found it in a ditch, rusted and trashed. When I blew up at him, my mom just sighed and said, "You need to learn to share, Eli. He's your brother." Meanwhile, they treated me like I was a burden they were stuck supporting out of obligation. I busted my tail babysitting, mowing lawns, and shoveling snow to save money for college. Even then, I had to ask them for small things like gas money or help with school supplies. Every request came with a lecture about responsibility and how we're not here to spoil you. But Mike, the golden child, could break anything, and our parents would move heaven and earth to replace it. His first car, a beat-up Toyota, lasted 6 months before he wrecked it driving recklessly. They got him another one, a worn-out Honda, which he managed to destroy within the year. Did they let him face the consequences? Of course not. They just bought him another clunker. "He's young," they said. "He'll figure it out." I was never given the chance to learn. By the time I turned 18, I'd had it. After one particularly nasty fight, Mike had broken my laptop after borrowing it, then blamed me for leaving it where he could get to it. I decided to leave. I called my Uncle Frank, my mom's older brother, the only adult in my life who had ever made any sense. Frank, a no-nonsense retired cop, agreed to let me move in with him. He even handed me the keys to his old Ford F-150, which he'd driven for years. It wasn't flashy, but it was sturdy and reliable. It had its share of dings and scrapes from Frank's time using it on the job, but I didn't care. It was mine, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have to share it with Mike. That truck meant everything to me. I took care of it, kept it spotless, learned how to maintain it, and even started earning extra cash hauling things for people. It gave me the freedom I'd never had growing up. Naturally, Mike hated it. He couldn't stand that I had something he didn't. Every time I drove it to our parents' house, he'd find something to complain about. "Why do you get a truck?" he'd whine. "Mom and Dad never bought me a truck. That's not fair." I reminded him over and over. It wasn't from them. Uncle Frank gave it to me, but he didn't care. To Mike, anything good that came my way was something he deserved too. Things really blew up when Mike wrecked his third car. He was being reckless, again, and slammed into a street pole. He showed up at my parents' house the next day, acting like the world had ended. "What am I supposed to do now?" he moaned. "I need a car for work." And of course, my mom looked at me like I was the solution to all his problems. "Eli, can't you just let him borrow your truck? He really needs it." I didn't even think about it. "No." Mike looked stunned. "What do you mean, no? You don't even use it all the time." "It's mine," I said. "I'm not letting you destroy it like you've done with every other car." Cue the guilt tripping. My mom started in. "Eli, he's your brother." "Family helps family," my dad added. "You can ride the bus for a few days." But I wasn't budging. That truck was my income. I needed it for work, for errands, for hauling side jobs. Letting Mike use it would be like handing him the keys to my life and watching him drive it off a cliff. I stood my ground. Mike sulked for days, and my parents treated me like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. Honestly, I started to feel a little guilty, even though I knew I was right. That was their specialty, making me feel like I was the bad guy for setting boundaries. I thought that was the end of it. I should have known better. I really should have known Mike wouldn't take no as an answer. That's the thing about him. When you tell Mike no, he doesn't hear it like a normal person. To him, no just means try again later or find a way around it. At the time, I thought I'd shut him down for good when I refused to lend him my truck after he totaled his last car. But the truth was, he wasn't done. He was just figuring out his next move. A few days after our argument, I left work and headed out to the parking lot. I always parked my truck a bit farther out to avoid door dings and other careless drivers. But when I got to my usual spot, my truck wasn't there. For a second, I thought maybe I'd parked somewhere else and forgotten. After circling the lot twice, that sinking feeling hit me. It was Mike. I don't know how I knew, I just did. I called him immediately. He answered after a few rings, sounding way too relaxed. "Hey man, what's up?" "Where's my truck, Mike?" I asked, trying to stay calm even though I was fuming. "Oh, don't stress," he said like it was no big deal. "I just took it for a quick spin. I'll bring it back soon." "You what? Bring it back now or I'm calling the police." "You're overreacting," he scoffed. "It's just a truck." I hung up, pacing back and forth, furious. How had he even gotten the keys? I always kept them with me. There was no way he hotwired it. Mike wasn't exactly criminal mastermind material. Then it hit me. Some older F-150 models could have keys made if someone had the VIN number. He actually went out of his way to copy a key so he could take my truck. Half an hour later, he pulled into the lot, grinning like it was all some kind of joke. The truck was filthy, mud splashed on every side, fast food wrappers scattered across the seats, and it reeked of cigarettes. Mike hopped out like nothing was wrong. "See? No big deal," he said, tossing me the keys. I snapped. "What is wrong with you? You stole my truck and you trashed it." "Relax. It's not like I wrecked it. I just needed a ride," he shrugged. "You weren't even using it. You don't get to decide when I use my truck. You have no idea how much I depend on it." A few coworkers were passing by, doing their best not to look, but the scene was impossible to ignore. Great. Now he was embarrassing me at work, too. I told him to get lost and made it perfectly clear. If he ever touched my truck again, I'd call the cops. He just laughed like I was joking. That was Mike. He never believed rules applied to him. That night, I called Uncle Frank and told him everything. I expected a lecture for not calling the cops, but he just sighed. "Doesn't surprise me," he said. "Your brother's been skating by too long. Time to set firm boundaries." He even helped me install a GPS tracker in the truck just in case Mike tried something again. Frank didn't say, "I told you so," but he didn't have to. Next time, don't even bother calling him. Call the police. Let him deal with the consequences. The next day, I spent over 2 hours cleaning up the mess Mike left. The mud was caked on like he drove through a swamp. The inside was even worse. Grease stains on the seat, spilled soda on the floor, and the lingering stench of cigarettes that refused to go away. It felt like a violation. That truck wasn't just transportation. It represented freedom from everything I'd grown up with, and Mike had treated it like garbage. Later, my mom called. For a second, I thought maybe she was calling to apologize. I should have known better. "Eli," she said in that disappointed mom tone. "Did you really have to yell at your brother last night? Are you serious? He stole my truck, Mom." "He borrowed it," she said, correcting me. "And he brought it back." "He didn't borrow it. Borrowing requires permission. He took it, and he wrecked the inside." "You're being dramatic," she sighed like I was overreacting. "You know how hard things have been for him lately. He's your brother." I hung up. I couldn't take it anymore. No matter what Mike did, they always twisted it into my fault. Or at least something I should forgive. And whenever I stood up for myself, they made me feel like the villain. A few quiet weeks followed. Mike avoided me, probably because he didn't want another confrontation. My parents gave me the cold shoulder, as usual. I thought maybe they finally realized I wasn't backing down, but really they were just waiting for another chance to dump Mike's problems on me again. Frank's words kept ringing in my ears. "Next time, don't argue, just call the police." I didn't know it yet, but the next time Mike touched my truck, things were going to explode in a way I never saw coming. Things hit their breaking point around Christmas. The tension between me, Mike, and our parents was still heavy from the last truck incident. Mike had been keeping his distance, and my parents were acting like I'd kicked a puppy. But like always, I showed up for the annual holiday gathering. Not for them, but for my cousins, Uncle Frank, and the food. When I walked in, my mom greeted me with her usual passive-aggressive charm. "Oh, you actually came," she said loudly, casting a glance at the relatives nearby. "After all that drama, I wasn't sure you'd show up." I ignored her, took off my coat, and headed straight to the kitchen where Frank and Aunt Linda were chatting. "Merry Christmas, kid," Frank said, giving me a firm pat on the back. He must have seen the irritation in my face because he leaned in and muttered, "Don't let her get to you." The rest of the day dragged on with typical holiday noise, squabbling relatives, sugar-fueled kids, and my mom sneaking in little jabs whenever she thought she could get away with it. "Eli acts like that truck is made of gold," I overheard her whispering to one of my cousins. I clenched my jaw and stayed quiet. No way was I going to start a fight over turkey and stuffing. Mike, on the other hand, was acting weirdly quiet. He was glued to his phone the whole time, barely talking to anyone. I assumed he was still pouting about me shutting him down last time we spoke. Fine by me. Let him sulk. Later in the evening, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. My truck keys were gone. I always kept them clipped to my belt loop. I checked the kitchen, the bathroom, every room I'd been in. No keys. I stepped outside. Sure enough, my truck wasn't where I'd parked it. Heart racing, I pulled out my phone and opened the GPS app linked to the tracker Frank had helped me install. The dot representing my truck was already a few miles away, and moving fast. I stormed back inside and dialed Mike. "Where's my truck?" I snapped when he answered. He didn't even try to lie. "Chill, man. Just picking up a friend. I'll bring it back in an hour." "You stole it again?" I shouted loud enough to freeze the room. "It's not stealing, bro. We're family," he said with a smirk in his voice. "Lighten up. It's Christmas." Frank appeared in the doorway just as the chaos started. "What's going on?" he asked. "Mike took my truck again," I said through gritted teeth. Before Frank could speak, my mom swooped in like she was stepping onto a stage. "Come on, Eli. It's Christmas. Can't you let it go just this once?" I can't let it go. It's not his. He had no right to touch it. Frank nodded and pulled me aside. "Check the app. Let's see where he's headed." I opened the tracker. The dot had stopped moving, on a highway exit ramp. I called Mike again. No answer. The third time, he finally picked up. "Yeah, so, about that," he said. "I kind of hit some ice and slid off the road, but it's fine. It's just stuck in a ditch." "You what?" Everyone in the house was staring now. Mike muttered something about the weather and hung up. I threw on my coat and grabbed Frank. "We're going to get my truck," I said, ignoring my mom's. "Be nice to your brother." When we arrived, my truck was buried nose first in a snowbank. The front end was wrecked, bumper mangled, headlight shattered, and the grill bent like foil. Mike stood by the side of the road with his arms crossed, acting like it was no big deal. "It's not that bad," he said. "You totaled my truck," I snapped. "It's just cosmetic," he shrugged. "The roads were slick. It's not my fault." A police cruiser pulled up, lights flashing. Not surprising, someone probably reported the crash. The officer got out and asked what happened. Before Mike could answer, our parents showed up in their van, rushing over. "This is all a misunderstanding," my mom said quickly. "Eli was the one driving—" "Don't even start," I cut in. "Mike stole my truck. I have GPS proof." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Is that true?" Mike stammered. Frank stepped up. "You might want to test him. He's been drinking." They did. He failed the breathalyzer and was cuffed on the spot for DUI and driving on a suspended license. My mom started bawling, begging the officer to go easy, but Frank shut her down. "Let him face the consequences, Sharon." For once. I watched silently as they hauled Mike into the back of the cruiser. My truck was towed out of the ditch, but the damage had been done. Back at the house, the tension hit a boiling point. My mom spun on me, red with rage. "How could you let this happen to your brother?" I stared at her, stunned. Let this happen? He stole my truck, crashed it, and was drinking while driving without a license. That's his doing. "He's your brother. You should have kept this in the family," she screamed. Frank cut in before I exploded. "He broke the law, Sharon. You can't cover this one up." "Don't tell me how to parent," she fired back. "You always took Eli's side." Frank chuckled darkly. "Mike doesn't need help looking like the bad guy." My dad tried to mediate. "Let's all calm down. Mike made a mistake." "No," I interrupted. "You've covered for him his entire life. That's not support. That's enabling." My dad shook his head. "You don't understand. Life's harder for him." "Harder for him?" I said, laughing bitterly. "He's been handed everything. Look where that got him." Frank held up a hand. "Enough. This isn't going anywhere. Eli, cool off. Sharon, Doug, you need to seriously reevaluate how you've been raising your sons." I stormed out to check on my truck. It had been dropped off while we were gone, and up close it looked even worse. Crushed front end, busted light, bent grill. Inside, muddy footprints and that same cigarette stench lingered from the last time he borrowed it. The next day, Mike called from jail. I let it ring before answering. "Eli, man, I'm sorry. This was all a misunderstanding." I rolled my eyes. "You stole my truck, crashed it, and got a DUI. What exactly is confusing about that?" "I screwed up," he admitted. "I need your help." "What do you want?" "Can you bail me out? Mom and Dad can't afford it." "No." "Come on, man, it's rough in here. These guys, maybe you should have thought about that before you stole from me." I hung up. A few minutes later, my mom called. "Eli, you need to help your brother." "Why can't you or Dad?" "We don't have that kind of money." I laughed. Because you've already emptied your savings trying to save him. I'm done. Don't be like this. He's your brother. Number. He's a grown man. Let him deal with his own mess. I hung up and blocked her for the rest of the day. Later, Frank dropped by with an update. Mike's not just looking at a DUI, they're charging him with theft, reckless driving, and driving on a suspended license too. Theft? I asked. Yep. You didn't give him permission. That's auto theft. For a moment, I felt a flicker of guilt. Then I remembered every single time he'd used me, every time my parents defended him. Good, I said. Maybe now he'll learn. Frank nodded. We'll see. Sure enough, my parents scrambled to bail him out. They borrowed from relatives, tapped into their retirement savings, and brought him home. He didn't speak to me when I stopped by to grab tools I'd left in their garage. Just sat there on the couch, defeated. Part of me wanted to believe he'd changed. But deep down, I knew better. He ended up facing heavy court fines, probation, and a ruined license. His reputation was in the gutter, and the court didn't buy a word of his excuses. He eventually landed a job as a pizza delivery guy, on foot, borrowing the family's ancient van when desperate. One time, he delivered to Uncle Frank. I was there. The look on his face was priceless. Frank gave him a little nod. Nice to see you working, Mike. Keep it up. Mike grumbled and stormed off. I smiled. Despite it all, my parents kept making excuses. He's trying his best, my mom said. This has been so hard on him. Hard on him? I asked. It's hard on you because you keep rescuing him. You'd do the same if you were a parent. Number, I'd teach my kid responsibility, something you've never done. Then came the final straw. One night, Mike showed up at my door. I just want to say I'm sorry, he mumbled. But do you think you could lend me some money, just to get back on my feet? I stared at him. Are you kidding? I'd pay you back. Like you paid Mom and Dad? Number, don't ask again. His expression turned cold. You don't have to be a jerk. Maybe you should have learned how to be an adult years ago. He left in a huff. I slammed the door. I was done. After everything, I finally felt peace. For the first time, I wasn't cleaning up his disaster. He was finally being held accountable. And it was long overdue. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.